So I'm at one of my flips right now, just checking up on the status here. It looks like we're pretty close to wrapping up paint right now. And we already have the cabinets and the countertops installed now. This is a flip where we're probably going to profit somewhere around $80,000, $90,000. So it's certainly much better than a hot poke in the eye. This is a manufactured home. So some things to keep in mind about manufactured homes, if you're flipping them or buying them for investment purposes, you want to make sure that they're built after, I think, June 15th, 1976, because it's at that point that they really standardized the manufacturing home process. Therefore, it has the HUD tag and it is going to be financeable through traditional means like conventional financing, FHA, VA financing. So anytime you're buying anything for investment purposes, you have to have a reasonable exit strategy. And if the property cannot be easily financed, you're essentially going to be removing the vast majority of what your potential buyer pool is going to be. So that's definitely number one and super important. Number two is I never buy or almost rarely buy manufactured homes that are going to be inside of a park. Those buildings, for the most part, again, cannot be financed easily, and most people are giving those things away. And so even if you buy something dirt cheap, it's generally just not going to be worth it because the structure isn't really worth anything and you don't own the land. Not only that, the monthly dues in a lot of these mobile home parks can be like $700, $800 a month, which completely kills the cash flow on those properties. The last thing is that a manufactured home isn't going to be financeable if it's been previously moved. So you always want to make sure to double check if that's going to be the case. It's usually going to be a no-go for me unless you're, again, buying it at just an incredible price. So just a little bit of history on how we found this property. The original owner of this property had passed away, and we got in contact with the executor of the estate. They actually told us that they had planned to work with a real estate agent. Now, if you guys have watched my previous videos, I don't believe in overcoming objections or trying to keep people on the phone any longer than they really want to be on the phone with me. And so we just let them know, look, we're happy to be just the backup option. I think that taking this property to market really is going to be the best thing for you. And I certainly can't be mad about that. And so I simply asked them, or we simply asked them, by the way, shout out to Dan who helped us secure this property, but we basically just asked them, is it going to be okay for us to follow up with them maybe in 1 or 2 months if nothing has changed with the property? They agreed, and that's what we did. And last year, a lot of the money that we made, at least on the acquisition side, really came from the follow-up, which is why follow-up is just so important, especially when it comes to managing your database as well as managing your prospects. We followed up with them, and it turns out that they did start the conversation with a real estate agent, but they ended up dropping the ball. And unfortunately, this property was going into foreclosure. So they were on the verge of actually losing this property. So we met with the executor of the estate. We had a really great conversation. It sounded like they needed about $220,000 to be able to break even on this thing. And which, by the way, there was a lot of work to be done here. And there was quite a bit of trash. And so all they really cared about was paying off the mortgage and not having any debt looming over them. And we ended up making it happen. And so for the most part, this was a very low pressure kind of situation. We initially didn't have the deal, but through our persistent follow-up, we ended up getting it here in the end. And so I think even though there was a good amount of work here, I would still mostly consider this to be a cosmetic rehab. There was a lot of trash here. There was some structural things that we needed to address, but for the most part, this is nothing that we couldn't handle. So as far as the sale price is concerned, I think we're definitely hitting the 70% rule here. So if you're not familiar with that rule, it's basically buying a property at 70% of what the after repair value is going to be, but you subtract out the rehab costs. So we got into this property at about, if I remember correctly, $220,000. And we're gonna put probably about $60,000 into it. We think that the ARV, or the after repair value on this, is just under $400,000. So I think we're doing pretty good on this. We're going to be in and out on this. I think it's taking just a little bit longer than I anticipated, but we're not having to deal or contend with holding costs right now because all of the down payment as well as interest reserves and the rehab, we ended up borrowing from a private individual. So overall, I think that this is a pretty good deal for us. Again, I don't love buying manufactured homes, but if you follow the 3 rules, there is definitely quite a bit of upside or profitability to a manufactured home. I think in real practice, I don't necessarily value a manufactured home or a double wide manufactured home the same as I would with a traditional single family home. But for the most part, the values haven't been that far off from just a single family home. And we've done pretty good with them. Now, I did forget to leave out a 4th rule to buying a manufactured home, but you want to make sure that they are at least going to be a double wide manufactured home and not a single wide manufactured home. Again, all of this really comes down to financeability. So if you're buying a single wide manufactured home, it's not that it's impossible to get financing on it, but it just makes it a little bit harder, and you don't want to constrain what that buyer pool is going to be. So if you're essentially following those 4 rules and you're getting into a manufactured home at a pretty reasonable price, the profitability or the upside should be fairly good. Okay, I'm fairly new to YouTube and I would love to hit 100 subscribers this month. If you found this video to be helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you on the next one.